Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. The holidays are around the corner and I'm going to get started doing some winter stuff. So I have this beautiful reference photo of these winter trees and we are going to start off this painting just with a rough sketch. You can see that I did my trees. I have my straight horizon line, but these trees are on this slanted hill here. So it's a very cool composition. And I really like the pink sunrise or sunset that's in the background and the really nice dark blue in the sky. So we have to wet our paper really well. Take your time on this part. So give your paper a good water massage. Okay, so I did pre-wet my colors. So with a number 12 black silver series brush, I have my trusty paper towel. And we're going to start off with that really pretty shell pink. And I'm just going to go across the bottom here where that shell pink is and bring it all the way across. Don't worry about the trees. They're going to get covered up with all the blues in the next step. So I'm going to put a little stronger color here. I'm using it extremely thick. Hardly have any water here. This is a tube color. Look at how pretty that pink is. Now I'm going to transition from that pink to my cerulean blue because it is a beautiful sky blue. It's very light and it's naturally light. So we want to kind of work a little fast here. We don't want our paper to dry. We want to have time to put in these really pretty colors. So back and forth, blending it into the pink, blending it back up. And then coming in with the cobalt, which is going to be that darker color. I'm mixing my cobalt with my phthalo blue to get really dark on the top, just like in the reference photo, okay? Oh boy, I just messed it up. That's okay. I'll go over it again. The more we go over it, the longer it stays wet, right? That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. And then the same thing here with the snow. We'll get a little bit of the cobalt blue in here so that everything has some paint on it. Going back into my phthalo and using a very strong mixture here at the very top. Mixing my phthalo and my cobalt. And I think it's time to tilt. So anything that's seeping down the sides, you want to catch that with your paper towel. Because when this dries, we don't want to have any blooms. We want to have a really nice transition here. So that gravity helped, but I do want to get some extra blue in here in the mid part. I keep messing with this corner here because there's a piece of fluff. Don't you hate that? All right, whatever. It is what it is, right? So tilt it one more time. Look at how pretty that is. So I'm going to switch to my number 8. I'm going to be very careful with my water bucket here. While the sky is drying, we can work on the foreground a little bit. Oh my gosh, I'm so terrible about rinsing out my brushes. Pretty dirty, huh? I don't know if you guys can see that. So it's a good thing I rinsed it out. Now we don't want to make a bloom. It is still wet. So in order to not make a bloom, you have to have a thicker consistency of paint, more pigment, less water, so that we can put in these other tones here. So here is my horizon line. And this is kind of where our tree starts. So I'm just going to blot some of that. And then there is a mountainous area here. And then there's this mountain range. It's a little bit on the purpley side, so I could just mix in whatever red I have in my palette, just a tinge. Now, in the foreground, the snow, it actually has quite a bit of like this texture, so I kind of think it might be cool. I'm going to see if I could get like some dry brushing effect, so using like an extremely, extremely dry brush. Okay, so our painting dried quite lovely. It's nice and flat. So the next part that we're going to do are the trees. Now for this trees, the trick is that we're going to paint the snow in a blue color, and we're going to use that darker Peruvian blue as the branches under the snow. So it gives the illusion, the blue will give the illusion as the snow part of the trees. So I'm going to start off in watercolor. You always want to start with your lightest colors first. And so I'm just going to mix up a nice big puddle of the cerulean blue. That's my lightest blue. And I'll see if this will be good enough for the snow. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on my reference photo, and I can see the tips a little bit of where my trees are. And I am going to start to draw in, and I think this is actually going to be the perfect blue. Don't forget that your painting will also dry 25% lighter. Watercolors will always fade when they dry completely. And basically, I'm working wet on dry, but when I put in the shadows of this tree, there'll be some dry areas because you notice I'm leaving some negative spaces. So it'll mix with the wet paint, but there'll be some areas that it's drier as well. So it's almost even a good idea to have two brushes, one for the lighter blue, and you can kind of switch between your brushes. I'm using my 8, and I'm going to switch to my 4 for the shadows. Like I said, I am going to use this darker Peruvian blue for the underside of the painting, for the branches and the shady parts. And think of the snow lying on the top and you hitting some of these darker colors underneath the lighter colors. So actually, I think that is like such a cute tree. Don't you love it when your stuff turns out? Because that's not always the case. There we go, got my piles again. So you just want to make sure that you have enough paint mixed up for the next tree. So I'm going to move along. The next one's going to be, yeah, the tallest one. And I could kind of see my lines right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my cerulean blue and start to paint the next tree, which is right smack against my first tree. Now, if you're right-handed, you would want to work from the left side to the right side, but since I'm left-handed, I'm going the other way. So you notice I'm just kind of doing some meandering lines, and it's nice and juicy, my brush. I have lots of water on here, and it's going to stay wet for a little while so that once I come in with those shadowy colors underneath the branches, it'll blend together. And there's like some low-lying brush in front of this tree that's overflowing on the snow here a little bit. Gonna kind of get that in there. Coming in with my Peruvian blue. Okay, and I could even dab off a little bit if I think I have too much. Gonna go back to the top. Where I have these negative spaces where I didn't put any paint is a good spot to dab, but it's also nice to have them bleeding together too. So just keep looking at your reference photo. We could always go back and add more of the lighter blue once we get our shadows in and see if we have enough shadows. And then this foreground brush is going to be the darkest right here underneath, and so kind of want to get those colors in. The thicker the paint you use, The more pigment, the less water, the darker it's going to be. Ah, it's so cute. The tree is so cute. Makes me want to get my Christmas tree out. So you could squint too, like if you squint at your reference photo, you'll see where those shadows are a little bit better. And then you can do a value correction and add some darker areas if you need to. And then a few of the trees I'm just going to clump separately. And these ones are off in the distance, so they're smaller. And then, of course, coming in with our darker colors. And then right along the tree line, I'm adding in some more of the darker blue for the shadow. So I'm in a bit of a conundrum here. The foreground snowbank here, I kind of want to mess with it, but I'm afraid I'm going to wreck it. So maybe this will be a video, maybe it won't be a video. Okay, let's just go for it and see what happens. I kind of wanted some soft, like little snow drifts. And when I squint, I think it needs to be just a teeny bit, maybe, of some shadows. Some nice cerulean blue in here, too. So I'm going to go ahead with a few strokes of paint. Okay. Don't overwork it. Don't overwork it. Don't overwork it. I'm going to really try not to. This is looking pretty good. I think that having a bit more shadows for my trees, now that it's dried quite a bit, like I said, things dry lighter. So if I want my shadows to be a lot more darker in some spots, I'm going to come back in. I had too much coffee today. My hands are shaking. Any tea drinkers out there? Less caffeine. You don't get the shakes quite as much. I do like tea too. I come from Canada, so we drink a lot of tea there. I quite like that. I do think, especially where these two trees kind of blend together, there's going to be natural, shadows where they are touching, so that you can squint and see that those darker areas are there. And sign your painting. You guys just created a masterpiece. Congratulations. Now for the fun part, taking the tape off. Oh. This is very old tape, and Looks like it bled a little bit. Hope you guys like this tutorial. If you got value out of this video, please like and subscribe. It helps me out on YouTube, and I'll see you guys next week.